Hello, friends. Welcome or welcome back. This is Owning Authenticity. My name is Carly, and it is my pleasure to get to be back with you for another look at Pluto and Aquarius. I have a few other videos to point you towards if you're interested. I linked them at the top of the description box down below. There's an overview on Pluto, the archetype of the planet, or the whatever they classified it to as not a planet. It's a planet in astrology, okay? That's all we need to worry about. And there is my first look at the Pluto and Aquarius 20-year transit, the rise of individual empowerment. That was a lot of fun. 8 things that are popping off that are empowering the individual and why. Okay, why is that so important? It is. That's the summary version of that video. And I also have one that is Pluto in Aquarius being bookended by the Aries North Node transit. So the Aries North Node transit only happens once every 18 and a half years. And so the fact that Pluto in Aquarius is a 20-year transit and starting while the Aries North Node is going on, that means that right at the end of the Pluto in Aquarius transit, there will be another Aries North Node transit for us to step even more fully. So that felt like an interesting thing to call out. So anyways, those are the videos that I already have for this transit that you might check out if you're newly finding my channel. But this video, pull it back in. This video is looking at, when we start to level up and we start to expand our personal power, like what I talked about in the first video, the rise of individual empowerment, when that expanded frequency starts to come into our being, first things first, it's pushing against what's already there. Like we already have a whole life, a whole self, a whole psyche, a whole, this is not starting from zero, it's starting from who we are today. And as these frequencies are expanding, as we are really playing at a bigger level in our personal mission with more of our power, what are the blocks? What are the 8 main blocks of what this Pluto and Aquarius timeline is really transforming, as far as almost like the practical how-to of how are we expanding into more of our power? Well, we are dissolving our blocks. We're integrating what has been rejected, like what we are pushing away with everything that we have, such that what is truly our destiny unfolding isn't able to find us in as big a way as what would be happening if we weren't pushing it away. And so these blocks, these are things that likely as we go through them, each of them is its own iceberg, okay? And that's why it's a really cool thing in my book that we have 2 decades, right? We got 20 years, thousands of days to explore this iceberg and, all of these icebergs that go into transitioning out of having a central source of power in the world, which typically for civilizations exists at like a government type level, and we're moving into this phase of beingness where the individual is who is empowered, that like the rise of individual empowerment, that there is this decentralization of power. And what does that mean? It means that we are each responsible for answering the call of our unique mission. That's it, like what's calling you? Answer the call. Talk to whoever's on the other end, and that is easier said than done. And a lot of exactly what is in this video is the why, the how, the starting to pull the pieces apart. And I'm being inspired to share here as well that this video specifically is full of channeled messages, and because infinite intelligence is writing the script for this, it's designed to work with you as you deepen into Pluto and Aquarius, meaning you could come back to this video a year from now and take it in again, and it would sound like a brand new video to you because you are new. And really, that's how all videos all the time are working, that like, if you will listen again, you will get more because you yourself are new as we go through the evolution that we do every single day of facing more of who we are, integrating more of the pieces of ourselves that we have rejected and pushed away, bringing one more piece home, one more piece home, one more piece home. We do a little bit of that every single day. So after a year or two, the blocks that are in this video, it's like these are keys to the next door deeper into the iceberg, and you enter into that new space, and then you come back and it's the same key, only it takes you even deeper. And so that's really cool as far as like listening to this message again in the future. Let's see, is there anything else I want to add here? Oh, yes, there is. There's one more thing that I'm not going to get into it now, but I do have an offer to talk to you about at the end that is something that is totally free, that you are going to want to mark your calendars for this. I'm so excited to get into it. We will do that at the end of the video. Without further ado, though, let's dive into these 8 icebergs of what is blocking us from being more in our personal power, playing at that higher level when it comes to our personal mission. What is it, and how do we integrate it? How do we massage it and let the air out of it and pop the illusion of it and hack the code to make it more open and more expansive and more allowing of each of us to be in our personal power? Because the truth of the matter is, Aquarius energy is the humanitarian, and when you will be in your personal power, the world benefits. Okay, like the more powerful you are, the more on fire you are with your own life and your own mission, the ripple effects coming off of your beingness that then touch every single space that you ever walk into, every single person you ever talk to, every single, even just sharing space in traffic with people. Like, your aura is moving through the world, and the more you are in your personal power, the more you are giving that, you are transfusing that out into the world every single place you go, every single moment of the day, every single creature you share space with. You're sharing energy. And so the more of your own power that you are able to unlock, it's good for the world. You know, that's not dramatic, that's not overselling it. That's actually like a huge piece of my why, as far as why I have 600 videos and counting on this particular YouTube channel, because I want as many people as possible to be in their personal power. And so I get excited to talk about it over and over and over in as many creative angles and perspectives as I can come up with. Like, it is truly what drives me, is thinking about one more person feeling that breath, that first breath of new power coming into their beingness, just by, you know, what are we defeating? What is the block? What is the actual block? And this is going to be the same for every single one of these. It's our own self-limiting idea. It's our own preconceived notion. It's our own programmed version of who we think we are, and how we think the world is, and what we think is realistically possible for us. Like, this story is like right here on your face, like can't see through it, kind of thing. And so these blocks, we're going to take that story one subject at a time, and we're going to just do some unraveling. You know, the other good thing about this video is that it's on your time. So please make sure that you take it in whatever timing works with your nervous system, meaning if you need a break, if you got a huge rush of energy that like you need to process that and integrate that, like at that point, stop the video and trust that in divine timing, it'll pop it back up, like, and you press play right where you left off, and like, bada bing, bada boom, like right there is what exactly you needed to hear in the divine timing of that moment. So this space is here for you, not going anywhere. So please make sure that you are taking care of your nervous system as you work with your blocks and letting more of your power come to you. Okay? Because, like, realistically speaking, a rush of power into your system is going to jar your nervous system. That's the whole point. It's a rush of electricity. Like, what would happen if you took like the charge paddles that they use on the crash cart for people whose hearts are stopping, and like put that energy into your system? Do you think you'd feel it? Do you think you'd need a little bit of time to like recover and like get up to speed with like that rush of electricity coming into your system? Probably. Like when you're unlocking new levels of your power, like what you're really doing is working with your nervous system. You're letting yourself breathe through the electricity that you're unlocking. You're letting yourself have access to more of your own life force energy, and the body is going to be our pace car as far as like how fast that process can happen for us. And again, I give you divine timing as far as allowing yourself to integrate these energies in whatever pace feels kind to you. And all I can do is promise you that, this video was made with ethical treatment on the messenger, and that basically, like, already I know that, like, I'm probably not going to finish it today. I'm going to channel the messages that are fun and alive and use the amount of energy that feels like this overflow right now, that I'm still riding high on the overflow. At some point, the overflow is done flowing, like there is no more overflow. There's the part that I need to like get through the rest of the day. So yeah, the fact that we're gonna piece the recording together, maybe you piece your listening together, finding the rhythm of your drum is really the name of the game with Pluto and Aquarius. So I love that this kind of expanded intro got to really highlight that, even to just practice it with this particular video, but like how you do one thing is how you do everything. So finding the rhythm of your drum, finding the rhythm of your divine electricity, like the life force energy that is coming to you and you alone, is what this Pluto and Aquarius trip is all about. And becoming someone who can ride those waves and feel the exhilaration of the journey of becoming empowered. That is essentially what we do here on this channel and in these videos and in the other things that I offer. Again, we'll get more into the really exciting brand new offer that I have for you at the end of the video. But this first chapter is about social conditioning. Okay, so social conditioning comes up first thing when we think about Aquarius energy. That Aquarius is basically like the code of the program that was installed on you when you got here. Okay, so like we're gonna think about ages 0, like the day of your birth, through your 8th birthday. And it gets progressively less. It doesn't like drop off right there, but like 0 to 8 is a critical time. Like the first 8 years of our life, like essentially Kathy Hiller said that these are the years of wet cement. Okay, like, and I don't know if she actually said that or if that's where I heard it from. Been really enjoying her content lately. Highly recommend you check out her channel if that sounds fun to you. She's great as far as like all the little ways that it is truly our responsibility to unravel our social conditioning. And again, like, what is that social conditioning, that program that was installed on you in early childhood by whoever was around you? You know, every single influence that we're exposed to, it's the years of wet cement. If you are exposed to something as a 5-year-old, you will have a much more impactful reception of it, right? Like the year of wet cement, like it'll go in and like actually create a whole crater inside of you because there's not any resistance. The cement isn't hard yet, right? Like it's still forming, still curing. And if you experience the same thing for the first time as a 25-year-old, like, you might even shatter what got dropped on you. Like, you might be the harder thing in that situation to where it wouldn't have even a smidgen of the same impact on you as those first 8 years. So often when we are talking about our social conditioning and our Aquarius energy and becoming our authentic self, becoming our fully empowered, individual, self-actualized self. These are all Aquarian ideas, ideals. That's really the goal. But when we're talking about that and like, how do we actually get there? Like, what do you actually do is unravel your social conditioning, unravel, deprogram, reprogram. Like you think about how, like, when somebody comes out of a cult, like they deprogram them. Like cult deprogrammer, that's like a job of people that like kind of get you out of the brainwashing. And again, that's what we're doing here on this channel, is like re-brainwashing ourselves, only this time on purpose, with the version of the story that we truly want our life to be a reflection of. Because that's just the law of resonance, the law of attraction, is that however you are vibrating, that is truly what is going on in the world around you. The world is a mirror for you. So if you were given a script in your early years that tell you a story about yourself, and now you're living that story, please just know the whole point of this very first block is that a more normal thing does not exist. You know, like, welcome to the human condition. And I don't say that to minimize the suffering of your own social conditioning, only to really maximize and shine a light on, right, this is what we're all going through. Okay, like this epidemic of loneliness that exists in the world right now. It's like believing that you are alone in your suffering, and no, you're not. We are all suffering under our own social conditioning. We are all suffering with the self-limiting beliefs that we were taught early in our life, the years of wet cement, and the reflection the world is giving us of that. We are all right there. We are all in the same fucking boat, okay? And like, I say that to hopefully spark some compassion, spark some, wait, really? Like, this thing that I am personally going through, like, everybody's going through this? Yes. So, like, if you figure out even like one teeny tiny little piece of how to help yourself feel better, you've got gold right there, okay? Like, we're all experiencing this same human condition. And there's a thread of common humanity running through this first boulder that's like, it's in all of us. So here's an idea. How about we all unravel the story, the low-hanging fruit? We'll get more into that here in a second, but like, how about we all unravel like one little piece of our own story and then share those cheat codes out into the world? Like, hey, check it out. This was the story I had. This is how I saw through it. And this is the story I replaced it with. And here's how my life shifted. Like, if you have even one story like that, you've got gold. Okay? Like, it's so relatable. We all got brainwashed when we got here. Okay? Like, people who were in a cult, they get special attention with the cult deprogramming. I'm like, what about the cult of childhood? What about the cult of whatever perspective on the world was shown to you in those first 8 years. And some people, they had a lot of influences, or some people like moved around a bunch, and so they saw a lot of different things. And some people saw one thing. Like, everybody's on their own path, and there's conditioning in every single bit of it. It's recognizing that, like, we are all in this together. Aquarius, the humanitarian, like, we are truly all in this together. So any amount of your own social conditioning that you are able to deprogram out of yourself and unlock a better life for yourself in the process, explaining, not necessarily what other people need to do, but even just what you did. Here's what I did, and it impacted my life in this way. Like the I am narrative version, right? Like the opposite of Aquarius is Leo, where we open our heart and we just have the courage to give our heart to the world and say, here, look at this. Like, I saw a beautiful perspective on Leo the other day that was like, there are truly, it's a range. Leo, like all other archetypes, it's a range of frequencies, and there's lots of different ways that it gets expressed. And there are some Leos out there that are like, look at me, look at me, look at me, and like they're wanting attention. And really, any of the archetypes like have those lower frequencies. Like, there's nothing wrong or even any different with Leo energy. The high frequency of Leo energy, though, is that truly you are like a flashlight on a path, and you're actively standing there, like lighting up that path so that other people can walk through that passage right there and hopefully not trip and fall. Like, it's generous. Like, I saw a quote that I'm reminded of here too, of like, you think you've been shipwrecked when really you're the lighthouse. You're the one meant to stand right there, and right there, where is that? It's in your story. It's in your social conditioning. What'd you get? What's in your original program? How did it suck? How did you rewrite that program? What really helped you to do that? Get good at telling that story, and you're holding gold. That's gold in the hands of somebody who is currently stuck in the old program that you figured out how to rewrite. We're sharing cheat codes, I do my part, I give my cheat codes. You do your part, you give your cheat codes. Sharing it back and forth, and like everybody contributing their little part, is truly what this Pluto in Aquarius is all about. And we are all under that same condition, of being indoctrinated. When we got here, we were all wet cement, every single person. And to some extent, the whole point of diversity, which is another Aquarian concept, the whole point is that nobody's conditioning was perfect, because we are all unique, right? Like, the only reason there's 8 billion of us is that there's a unique vantage point of the divine coming through every single person. Unique. And so what does that mean? That means nobody's social conditioning was perfect. Nobody got taught exactly how to be uniquely themselves, because that is not something that can be taught. That's just not possible. We all came to find the beat of our own drum, to find the rhythm, and nobody else can give you that. Nobody else. And so really, what are these cheat codes of like solving our social conditioning inside of ourselves? It's really just ideas, it's perspectives. It's like for example, like one that's coming to mind is the other day I was talking to a fellow YouTuber, and I was explaining how I look at my YouTube channel like an amusement park. And so far in the 2.5 years that I've been doing my channel, it's like we've been having this like soft opening, this like gentle opening of like people coming in and kind of stress testing the park and the rides. And like, the park is really my psyche, okay? Like, these spaces and these videos, like, what is that? It's a bubble of my energy. And then people react to that bubble of energy, and it causes me to feel some kind of way. And so as more and more people come in and have more and more feedback about the park and the rides and what's here, it is interesting how my energy is is changing, and I'm confronting my own social conditioning about, most specifically, you know, if somebody doesn't like one of the rides, what does that mean? What does it mean? If somebody doesn't like one of the things that I made this particular video, they watched it, they don't like it, and they told me about it in the comments, which I want. I want the feedback on, like, what did you get out of this video? What'd you think of it? What could be better? How did it help you? All the things. And here's some feedback that's like, this was terrible. This is the worst thing I've ever heard. And, like, just as you expose yourself, you're bound to get a mixture of people's experiences. And so what does it mean? What does it mean when they didn't like it? And the analogy that I've come up with is that, imagine you personally as, a full-grown adult, and you go to an amusement park, and then you get in line for, like, one of the giant roller coasters, and you go on that ride, and it's really exhilarating to you. You love that. And then you get off that ride and you go over to this other part of the park, and there's this other ride, and you get on it and you hate it. It's terrible. And the reason is because it's built for kids. It's like one of those little, like, get in the mouse and, like, ride around on the ground in a circle, like, the little airplane that, like, it goes around and it goes up and down about like this. Like, you're riding in a ride that's not for you. And so does that mean that the theme park should dismantle the little airplane ride and, like, don't have that anymore? No, it means you shouldn't be on that ride. Like, don't get on the ride that's not for you. And so that mentality, that perspective, that's a cheat code. That's like don't necessarily look at your creative product as something that, like, every single person is going to have the same exact experience with, because somebody who's really tall is gonna love this ride, while somebody who's, like, teeny tiny, they're terrified. They're just not built for that experience. And that your worth is not in what other people are thinking about what you're building anyway, right? And so that another piece that I gave her was, like, that's why I typically, well, that and other reasons, like, I outgrow my content. I outgrow the rides that I built 2 years ago, the videos I made 2 years ago. I tend to look back at those and, like, not my favorite thing to do. But the rides I'm building now, the energy that I'm channeling now, the frequencies that I'm playing with now, I love. I love the ride that I'm building right now, the rides that I just built. Like, so I told her, like, that's why I mostly focus in construction. I mostly, like, every once in a while, like, people do go back to my older videos and they watch them and they love them, even usually, and leave comments, and, like, and then sometimes there's comments that people didn't like the stuff or whatever. And, like, all of that is really good. And I think about it like, I can hear the noise in the park. I can hear that there's people in the park and that they're mostly having a really good time, and that there's a couple people standing at the complaints window, and, like, that's to be expected in a big group of people, a big group of diverse people. It's beautiful. Everybody has their own experience. I personally mostly love to think about building the next new ride. I am the creator. I love to create the next new thing. So, like, I focus over here. So, like, my old programming, the old script of, like, how other people react to you, that's how you should feel about yourself. If other people don't like it, then you need to figure out, like, how do you need to be different so that they can like you, and I have unraveled that a lot in my process of posting on YouTube, to the point where at this point I feel very detached from what I'm making versus how people are responding to it. And mostly, by the time people are responding to it, I'm over here building the next new ride at the amusement park, right? Like, I have a job to do. I'm making new videos. I try not to focus so much over here. So, like, even just in that, that one experience of being inspired to give her that new perspective of how to look at it, how to think about it, even just that, like, this is how I do it. And it feels like freedom. It feels like all of the pressure melting off of me. And in that way, I have that much more fun, that much more creative inspiration flowing through me to keep doing the work, to keep pressing record, to keep making videos. It helps with consistency and like follow through. Those are things that I don't talk about on this channel because I don't think that you need to worry about that. It's like when you feel good, when you're bubbling over, dude, the consistency is just like, oh, I get to do it, I get to do it, I get to do it, I get to do it. Like, you don't have to be consistent. Like, that's just not part of it. It's like when you will get the block out of the way, when you will stop worrying about what other people think about what you're doing. That's one example of social conditioning. The energy is already flowing, and it's really a matter of us just not being in our own way. And our social conditioning is like the how we get in our own way. So unraveling it is just unraveling like how to be on your own team, like how to have your own back, that like figuring out how to feel the difference between what is programming, what is something that is like conditioned, and what is something that is authentic. This is a skill set that, if you've developed it, seriously, again, you're holding gold, and you could be teaching other people how to do that. And if you're not there yet, you really need to stick around for the offer that's coming at the end, because that is the very beginning of what we're going to learn in the next thing that I'm putting together for you guys, is how to tell the difference between authenticity and programming. For now, though, let's go on to number 2. Chapter 2 is self-honesty. And I go right here because I feel like these are building as far as a foundation, like laying out this foundation. First, we need to understand that like it's not your fault that you have self-limiting beliefs, and really we all do. Okay, like that's just how life works. That's the human condition, is that the first 8 years you got a program, it probably doesn't work very well for you, and it's your job to write your own program. That's being alive. Okay, so self-honesty is the next big piece of that foundation, where in order to write your own program, you have to know yourself. You have to know what's real, what is alive inside of you. And the thing is what is alive inside of you is both your authentic self and your conditioned self, your personality, your ego, the part of you that you made up to stay safe in the world. That's in there. It's real. It's alive. And so is your authentic self. They're both in there. It's not a matter of like your authentic self is absent and like not hearable, not seeable. Like, no, every day you see your authentic self, you hear your authentic self, and every day, every single moment, what's happening is we make the choice between this voice and this voice, this voice and this voice. And the thing is that a lot of times we choose based on which voice is louder. Is this voice louder? Is this voice louder? What's this voice saying? What's this voice saying? And a lot of times the louder voice, the more compelling voice, is the social conditioning that is often fear-based. It scares us, it threatens us, and then it's working with our amygdala that is very compelling. Like the amygdala running the show, again, normal. This is the human condition, is that you have an overactive fear brain going off all the time, responding to threats, responding to fear, and causing you to do things that are not in alignment with your authentic self. That is normal. That's just how a brain works. And so self-honesty is about cranking up that fucking volume knob on your authentic voice, on what is it saying? What is it telling you? What does it want? What does it prefer? What does it, on and on and on? What's its opinion? What does it want? What does it need? What does it desire? Listen, say. Like, crank up the volume on your own self-honesty, your own authentic voice. And the thing about it is, this was also a few days ago. I was sitting in the sacred circle for the Leo full moon, the sacred circles are accessible to anybody who wants to join. The join button is just below the video, not in the description box, but like next to owning authenticity. There's a subscribe if you haven't already, and a join button. And if you click join right there, there is an option to join the Sacred Circle experience, 2 Zooms a month, and we connect in person and live and ground the energy that's there. And in the one that we did here just a few days ago, which you can unlock, by the way, if like as soon as you join, you get to access the archive of sacred circles that have happened so far and get in on the next one then. So that's open invitation for anybody. But in this sacred circle, we're going back and forth like we do. Like, it's very interactive. It's about I bring the energy that I have, you bring the energy that you have, and whatever alchemy happens, like, it's amazing. It's like a magic formula every single time to just like combine everybody's energy, and so freaking cool. And what we uncovered was like just how difficult it can be to let yourself even say the thing, like to like basically stopping yourself. Like, you're saying things out loud, and I think the sensation that can happen, I'll speak from first person here, for me the sensation that can happen is that like as I'm talking, there are the multiple voices. There's the part of me that believes this and thinks this, and then there's the part of me that's over here and believes this and thinks this. And when you're really looking at like what's popping up in any moment, it's like there's always so many different threads presenting themselves to you. And again, it's like which one is most compelling? Which story is most compelling to tell? And what are you able to bring up and out of yourself? And sometimes it can be so hard to even say, to even tell your story, to even tell your opinion, because it feels so split apart. It feels like, you know, I want to say this thing, but I don't even really fully agree with it. And so then I can't even let myself say the thing. And again, I've been marinating in Kathy Heller content, and she used a phrase that was cough it up. Cough it up. Like, think about like a hairball in a kitty. I love it. Big cat person. And this hairball of like, get it up and out of your system because it's blocking the way. Okay, so like, even if your self-honesty is you saying things that like, I don't even fully agree with this, right? The whole point is that you're not fully anywhere. The whole point is that you're split apart, and to be honest with yourself probably includes saying things like, part of me sees it like this, and part of me sees it like this, and possibly part of me sees it like this, and part of me sees it like this. I mean, you could have so many facets, so many different variables and ingredients and pieces inside the contemplation that like saying any one piece of it, like saying any one, describing any one philosophy of it feels so incomplete that you can't even say it out loud. Cough it up, and then explain how, and that's not all of it, because also cough that up. Take up a little more space. You know, that's why this Aries North Node piece is so interesting, that we're having the benefit of the Aries North Node at the same time as Pluto and Aquarius is kicking off, and that it'll be bookended. We'll get a whole nother Aries North Node, a complete Aries North Node transit at the end of Pluto and Aquarius that says, you know what, take up a little bit more space, cough it up a little bit more. Be a little bit more honest with yourself. Bring a little bit more of your fragmented, multi-dimensional, multifaceted, disorganized, chaotic, incomprehensible. Cough it up. Let it out. Let it all out. Let the fragments come out. One fragment at a time. You know, like, I feel like there's the block of self-honesty. The opposite of self-honesty is self-dishonesty, which sounds really like a gross negative connotation from a social conditioning perspective, is that like being dishonest is like a bad thing. And it's like, yeah, but why do we do that? You know? And the block of it is, I think, this like illusion. Hear me when I say illusion. It's not real. This illusion that like to be honest means to like get coherent inside of here, and then you're speaking your coherent, honest, like honesty is like one thread, you know, and it's just not. What's honest is that I have these 37 threads. Do you have 12 hours while I show them to you? You know, can I take up that much space? And the answer is, in some places, yes, you can. There are all kinds of places in this world where you can take up that kind of space. And finding those and connecting with places where you feel safe to take up that kind of space, that is the job of Pluto and Aquarius. That is the work of unraveling this block of self-honesty, is finding the right place for it. And the thing is that, you know, the good news is that you yourself personally can be a reliable, sustainable source of hearing yourself. You know, at any point you could open your mouth and into an empty room start naming threads. Start describing this one. It's purple and is this long and it has this kind of texture to it. And side by side is a red one. And it's got this, it's like millions miles longer than this one, and it's got all of these barbs coming out of it. And side by side with that one is this one. Like, at any point, you could pause this video right now and start naming threads. You can take up your own space. And that is truly one of the key ingredients for discovering the rhythm of your own drum, the beat of your own drum, the frequency of your divine electricity, the frequency of your being is every single one of those threads, right? Like there's no prerequisite that says it has to be woven together in this beautiful tapestry. It's just not true, and it's maybe not even possible. And then we stop ourselves. We put a cork in it and don't let ourselves say anything because it's not coherent. It's not just one thing. Again, burst the illusion that it ever will be, and let yourself be multidimensional, multifaceted. Let yourself name all the threads that are the threads, right? Reveal that and watch what happens. Because the thing is, like those hairballs, those like, you know, I can't even say this thing because it's not my whole truth. It's like, if you won't say that one, that's one piece of your whole truth. And then you cough up another one, and that's another piece of your whole truth. And now you're building your truth out here in the world where your life can be a reflection of it, right? And if you hear yourself say something that you don't fully agree with, okay, take up even more space and talk about how I don't even fully agree with what I just said. Take up more space. If you're allowed to take up as much space as you need, self-honesty gets a whole lot easier. Okay, so there is the space of you with you. There's you taking up your own time and space to tell your own story to yourself, either just in a quiet room or recording yourself on video and watching it back. Or if you're not quite on video yet, like if you nitpick your appearance, I would say like a lower hanging fruit is that, oh, we were supposed to get back into that. We will now. A lower hanging fruit is to do audio only. So like only record your voice. Don't even try to record yourself on video. Just record your voice and then listen back to it. And like that's a step all by itself, to be able to tell yourself your own story and to listen to it, right? That right there, closing that loop, it's life-changing. It's life-changing. If like, type a heart down below if you know about the life-changing loop closing of like telling yourself your own story. So powerful. But the low-hanging fruit is really a matter of like, again, I think we get this illusion going where like, if I can't have the fruit at the top of the tree, then I don't want any fruit. And it's like, dude, like there's some right here at eye level that you could just like, and then another one, and then another one, and then another one, and then with all that fruit, you kind of like grow. that really nourished my being, and I got bigger, and now my eye level is like more up here, and there's a whole nother layer of fruit that you can reach that grows you even bigger, that now there's a whole nother layer of fruit, and that shit never ends. If you can get on that ride, that never ends. So the low-hanging fruit of self-honesty is to start with like the thought in your brain. Say it out loud. Like, and can you? Again, pause the video right now and say it out loud. Whatever you're thinking, just start talking. And can you do that? That is the block of self-honesty, is like even just our willingness to hear ourselves. Like it's so easy to get into a story like, nobody wants to hear from me, so I'm not even going to say it. I'm not going to write that thing because who's going to read it? And it's like, it's not, I get real aggressive when I'm like, it's not for them. It's not for them, it's for you. It's for you to be honest with you. Because if you're honest with you, there is a much bigger block going on here than they don't want to hear it. There's a self-rejection happening, that being honest with ourselves is the point. And so the thing about it is, though, as far as like, you could totally just like open your mouth and just start talking. Like, you could do therapy on yourself. Just start talking. You could record it and listen back to yourself and play therapist on yourself. You could. There's a lot of people that need support, need the structure of like, but how? Like, what do I say, right? Like, they need somebody to ask them a question. They need somebody to be sitting there across from them, like wanting to hear what you have to say, encouraging them to like, no, do say it, don't cut yourself off. Like, don't just say, I don't know, and throw up your hands. Like, you do know. You just don't want to say it. You don't want to be honest with yourself. You don't want to let the pieces come out so the picture can form, so you can really look at yourself. Like, without self-honesty, getting further into the rest of this, like, it just doesn't even work. And so that's why, again, I think the Aries North Node transit is so related to this Pluto and Aquarius chapter that we're getting. And yeah, being honest with ourselves and revealing our authenticity is often a lot messier than we think it should be, and that stops us dead in our tracks. So please, for the love of our global community, let the multifacetedness of your honesty reveal itself to you. Please and thank you for all of that you've already done. The thing is, on this channel, in this space, I know that you guys are already doing this. For the most part, most of the people that I come into contact with in this space are the ones who are doing the work to pull their authenticity up and out of them, even though that can be a gut-wrenching process. So let me be the first to tell you, if nobody's ever told you, or just a reminder that like, you being honest with yourself is such a permission slip to the entire world to engage in this process. The more you can allow yourself to relax into your own messy authenticity, it is such a permission slip for everybody that you ever come into contact with. It's so healing. And so again, because I know the audience around this channel, thank you so much for doing that, and for every single ripple effect of every single space you ever sit in. It's healing for every single space you ever sit in. And even when other people don't say that out loud, they feel it, and it's working with them on deep levels. And so just thank you for every ounce of furball that you're able to cough up. Thank you. Chapter number 3 is victimhood. And the concept with victim is, there's a lot, again, in the atmosphere, in the social conditioning, there's a lot out there around the word victim or being a victim, yada, yada, yada. And other places might want to get a lot more into that, but I'm going to take it and look at it in a very simple way that is grounded in the law of resonance, the law of attraction, that says, you are the radio. Like, the tuner is inside of you, and life is a mirror, period. So like, kind of the block of victimhood would be represented in the act of ever pointing at anything outside of you and blaming it, aka, what are we doing when we blame? We're giving our power to that thing over there. Ruined my life, fucked me up. Like, blaming anything out there is putting our power all the way over there where it no longer belongs to us. And if we don't hold our power, if we don't own our power, then we don't have the ability to make our life what we want it to be. And that is always an illusion. That's always an illusion. Blaming the mirror for showing you that your shirt is pink is an option. Like, you could totally do that. But does it change the color of your shirt to be like, how dare you tell me my shirt is pink? You know, like, what are you really doing at that point? You're arguing with a brick wall about the brick wall being a brick wall. Like, it's reflecting you. So if you want something to be different, then the answer, the tweak, is always going to be in here, right? Like, we're never going to be able to change our external circumstances. We can only change what's going on inside of us, and then the world reflects something completely different. That is just always true. And so the idea of victimhood is an illusion. The act of blaming is an illusion. It's something that the sooner that we can figure out that we are the radio and the tuning knob, the responsibility for like what music the radio is playing, aka like the flavor, shaped, color, texture, sound, smell of your life. What music is playing on your radio? The tuning knob is in here, in your energy, in your bringing your frequencies together, right? Like, if your life sounds like chaos and static and all kinds of things that you don't want to listen to, those are the threads that are waiting to be explored inside of you. So, like, going back to self-honesty and pulling at those and naming them and describing them, bringing them up and out so that you can actually look at it and say, I don't even believe that. I don't even think that's true. Right, so why tell that story? You know, like, how would you want to change that story? How would you want to, point that energy going forward? I don't even believe that, like, it's really their fault. Like, I know that it's, I have the power. Right, so what is the new story? What is the new story? Well, I went through something and I learned a lot from it, and it let me see this, and now I'm pointed this way, right? Like, I like to focus over here at like what I have control over, what I have power over, which is the right now moment of I can become more of who I am. Always, at every single moment, that is an option to me. And the path is typically self-honesty, right? Start with the thought that's in your head and say it out loud, and follow that trail, follow the white rabbit. And the victimhood complex is typically like what we don't want to see, right? Like, when we paint ourselves as the victim, and what that means is that there's a perpetrator out there somewhere. There's, the force, the opponent out there that makes us the victim, that makes it not our fault, it's their fault. At that point, the illusion, the reflection, like when there's an opponent, when there's a perpetrator, when there's a meanie, a bully, a hater in front of us, who's the hater? Who's the bully? Who's the meanie? We are. So when we would rather be the victim, it is because we are not willing to see that we are actually our own bully, our own worst critic. People admit that and kind of like brush it off, like, I'm my own worst critic, I know we all are, and like just carry right on with their life. I would change that. I would work on that. I would move that. I would mold it into something different. Because as long as you are your own worst critic, that's what life is bringing you. Criticism. Meanies, bullies, haters. That's the reflection of you and what you're doing to yourself. And so victimhood And any place where we want to blame somebody else, somebody, something outside of ourselves, like that, what we're really coming to terms with is all of the ways that we reject ourselves, that we put ourselves down, that we think of ourselves as not good enough. And all of that, like to tie it all together here with like this big, beautiful foundation that we're building, all of the ways that we treat ourselves like that, those are social conditionings. Those are the programs. Those are the not enough programs, the not good enough programs, the you are bad programs, the you're too fat, you're too ugly, you can't sing. Like all of these programs that other people, when you were wet cement, they dropped those programs that they personally subject themselves to. They influenced you. They gave you that treatment that they're so used to giving to themselves that that's their normal. They subjected you to it, and now you have that shape. Now you take a critical approach to yourself. And again, I'd change that. I'd figure out how to look at yourself differently. And one of the pieces of that is to depersonalize your conditioning. Like, yeah, you're your own worst critic because that's how you were taught. Like that doesn't have to be your identity. You don't have to identify with the critic. And in fact, I hope that the Pluto and Aquarius 2 decades worth that we're getting that's like one of the things is that, by the end of these 20 years, that it's much more common to hear somebody be like, I'm my own biggest cheerleader. I'm my own biggest cheerleader. And then like carry right on with their life. Like, this is what's possible when more and more and more people will be honest with themselves, will recognize the power of their own being, to tune the dial of their own frequency, to integrate through their own self-honesty all of the stories that are present inside of you all day, every day. They're always in there, whether we admit it and pull them out and work with them or not. They're always in there, right? They're part of who we are. And until we'll look at all of it, until we'll take responsibility for all of it as ours, again, how do we do that? By depersonalizing it, by remembering that this is not something that you are in alone. We are all in this together. Truly, we all have this same practice that we are working through, and sharing the little bits that you have so far, right? Like being honest about what you figured out so far and what you're still working on. That is, again, that's gold, because we're never done, right? There is no there. There's no completion stage. There's no like perfect enough. There's no whole enough. So getting okay with revealing our imperfect, messy authenticity feels like the name of the game with Pluto and Aquarius. So we will continue on here with chapter 4, money. Money is a huge, maybe one of the hugest blocks to the rise of individual empowerment. Like if we're talking about individuals being in their power and being in their limitless creative power, life force energy flowing through them, we're talking about living on a timeline where you personally have access to a lot of resources, money included, but really a lot of resources that are working with you to do your work in the world, do your mission in the world. And so when we think about unraveling the blocks that are truly standing in the way of our own personal empowerment, money and looking at our relationship with money has got to be on the list. So looking at relationship with money, what does that even mean? Is that something that you've maybe even ever thought about as far as like, how do you have a relationship with money? Like one of the practices that I'll give you first and foremost that I've been working with here just recently having discovered it, is writing letters to money. So, dear money. And then what do you say? What do you say? What do you say to money? You know, what do you want from money? Do you want money to be your friend? Do you want to have a loving, harmonious, beautiful, expansive relationship with money? Do you like hating money? Do you have a piece of your identity wrapped up in, you know, your goodness around not taking up too much money? I mean, to say that our money programming is connected to everything, like that is such an understatement. Like when we're talking about money, it is anything but a superficial conversation. Our ability to receive money is, again, life is a mirror. Receiving money is a mirror for our overall ability to receive everything, to receive life itself. And so money, like life itself, is flowing all the time. It's all around us. It's infinite, truly, in its capacity to tap into it. But it's like Wi-Fi, and are you connected to it or not? You know? And so where I felt like I was even just a couple weeks ago, at the time I'm recording this on February 5th, 2024, we've had Pluto and Aquarius for like 2 weeks, and it is incredible to me how one of the pieces, one of the blocks that is like first and foremost on my personal experience of Pluto and Aquarius is me running up against fears around money and blocks to receiving money, and feeling almost like this like divine ding, like this oven timer that's going off that says it is time. It is time to figure this out. And when you put it into the context of the rise of individual empowerment, it makes a lot of sense that like an empowered individual also has a big fat checkbook, because once you're receiving, once you're open to your own power, once you're, you know, cleaning the resistance and the blocks out of the pipeline, the receiving couldn't be more natural, right? So like money is just an amplifier of what we already have going on, and money, our relationship to money, is just a mirror for our relationship with source. Like, you know, the thing about money is that so one of the developments in my relationship with money here recently is that it got a whole lot more fun when I manifested, without even trying to, without even knowing that I wanted this, I manifested a money buddy, somebody who also is right where I'm at, as far as like, it feels really important to untangle this at this time. So I'm already going to be doing that. You're already going to be doing that. How about we share cheat codes? And so that's enough. And so getting to go back and forth with her, one of the things that she said is like, and she, you know, she was like reading all these articles and like going with the contemplation in directions that like I never even would have been drawn there, and yet she's doing that exploration and then sending cheat codes over to me, and I'm like throwing some at her. And one of them that she said that was so good was, you know, it's not about like, I'm allowed to earn limitless amounts of money. It's really a matter of like what you do with it. The same as like, I'm allowed to receive 1,000 hammers. It's just, what are you going to do with them? And that's what matters. It's like, you could have different Wi-Fi plans. You could have like this one or the unlimited one. Like, it's just which one are you tuning into, and how much capacity do you want? How much capacity do you want to be able to play with? You know, like internet is a perfect example of like, I would love a bigger internet plan because I can't upload videos. I can't live stream from my house. I have to leave my house. I have to put in that much more effort to go to the place where the connectivity is available in order to be able to do those things. And I want it to be closer to me. And one of the pieces that, I would love to have is like that awesome internet. And the internet's company is like, I'll put in a line. You just got to pay $5,000. Like you got to front your part of the bill of like installing that connectivity to where you want it to be. And so like it's just one question is like, what are you going to do with it? And to think that money is evil, or like that was definitely one of the first beliefs that came up for me when I started exploring my beliefs about money, when I let myself be honest with myself. What do I think about money? How do I feel about it? What does it make me think when I get a bill? What does it make me think when I see somebody who wants to hire me? Like, what are my stories? What are my programs around money? Let me get really honest about this. Let me cough it up. Another practice, in addition to writing letters to money, is to keep a money journal where like that's all that's in there. And for at least 30 days, you sit with your relationship with money and you explore it. Like whatever is there today, sometimes early on, the first several days of doing it, it was mostly fear. It was mostly lack. It was mostly like, I don't like this. I don't want to be here. There's a reason I don't look at this. It doesn't feel good to look at this. And even just a few days into it, I had the idea this is another practice, to make a balance sheet. And if you're not familiar, no big deal. But like when you run a business, like you have a balance sheet. You have like, what are your assets? What are the things that are your resources that you could draw on if you had to, right? You've got cash, you've got checking accounts, you've got savings accounts, you've got retirement, you've got your house, you've got your car. Like you have assets that are worth something. That's energy sitting in your grid, all of your assets. And then on the other side of it, the flip side of that coin what are your liabilities? What is the money that is going out that you are obligated to pay those debts, right? Maybe you have a credit card, maybe you have a mortgage on your house, maybe you have a car loan, whatever the money going back out is. And then you basically take assets minus liabilities, and that's the balance of your account, the balance of your grid of all of the energy sitting in your grid. And I had been feeling the liabilities. I had been feeling the debt obligations, the money that, I'm going to have to pay this, like I had been really, 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 really hyper zoomed in, hyper focused on the liabilities half of the equation, to the point where the overall feeling of how I was focusing was like, I feel broke. I feel like I've never in my life before, thank freaking God. Because talk about wet cement, like feeling broke as a child, I can only imagine the shape that puts on your cement, that's the program that you have to unravel. Talk about like the difference between experiencing something at 5 or 35, like to be 35 years old and for the first time in my life live at a place where I feel broke. That's how I feel. Not today, but not too far in the distant past. I feel broke, and making that balance sheet, it did not change anything. The only thing that changed was that now, instead of doing it in my head, keeping it in my head and keeping it in my fear in the dark of like, oh my God, this just like sucks to look at, like look at all these liabilities. When I sat down, I had a pretty okay sense of the liabilities. Like I knew what I owed, and like that was the whole point. That was the problem, was that I was focused way too much there. It was so not balanced. I was not giving any credit to the assets. Like when I put down a list of like, what are my assets? What are my money in the bank? What's my cash? What's my house? What's my car? What's my retirement? List that out and add it up. And I'm like, really? Like, are you kidding me? Like that's what? Like, I literally felt like when I was going to take assets minus liabilities that it was going to be negative, like upside down, like you owe more than you have in assets, like your energy grid at that point is upside down. That's like the equivalent of like no money in the bank and $100,000 in credit card debt. And like, that's how I felt, was no money in the bank, $100,000 in debt. And that's not too far off when you include my mortgage. Like, it felt huge. And yet when I zoomed out and I gave credit to the reality of the situation, the balance sheet of the situation, not just the outflows, but also the assets, the support of what's underneath me. And it's not negative, it's positive. And I'm like, that is brand new information that I did not have before I was willing to look at it. You know, like, I was so busy being like, it was too hard to look at, it hurt too much to look at. And yet when I looked at it, what I saw there, like, was like almost instant relief. Like, it took so much pressure off of me to even just be aware of what was real, give a bit of attention, shine a bit of light on the full picture, not just the little part that we get hyper focused on in our minds. So I also want to give you one last little tool, you would call it, of some affirmations that I have recently absorbed and have been working with. And these affirmations, I would say, are very much a mirror for you to be able to see your current programming around money, aka your current story, your current belief, your current narrative around what is allowed and what is possible and what is right. What is, like, there's a lot about greed in the culture and how, like, greed is a sin and you don't want to be greedy. You don't want to be perceived as being greedy, yada, yada, yada. There's so many stories that we can find ourselves looping into. And the thing about it is, like, they are truly just stories, because life is anything that you want it to be. You're the creator. So, like, what level do you want to play at? How big of an impact, how big of a service do you want to make? Because truly, always we are worthy of being generous, with our time. We have our time to give. And the more resources that we have coming into our space, it truly does expand the capacity of what it is that we are able to give in this world. And for those of us that are living a spiritual mission of, like, showing up in the world and anchoring light onto the planet so that this world can have more love and have a greater Wi-Fi signal, for everyone to be able to tap into, like, anybody who's wanting to do their part to boost that signal of divine love on the planet, money lubricates that bandwidth. It absolutely amplifies everything that you are doing inside of yourself, that you're allowing for yourself. Money is how you figure out how to deploy that in an even bigger way. And so the first affirmation is that it's a good thing to have money. It's a good thing to have money. It's a good thing to have resources, to be the custodian of resources, to get to decide how you will activate the people around you, how you will support the people around you to play at even higher levels for themselves. Like, how you will move those resources in the most meaningful way to you. It's a good thing to have money. It's a good thing for women specifically to have money. It's a good thing for women to have money. These are mirrors for you to be able to feel inside of yourself what comes up when we think about these things. Women should have money. Women should have a lot of money. I heard a stat the other day that 8% of the world's wealth is controlled by women. And the thing about it is that, like, we've lived in the patriarchy for the last couple thousand years, and we see when men have the power, when men have more than their 50% of the power, because I'm not in any way, shape, or form saying women should have 92% and men should have 8%. No, we need balance between both sides, the masculine and the feminine, the making it happen and the receiving. There's a balance, there's room and brilliance in both of those. And so the goal would be to see it be just as likely that women are tapping into this kind of abundance, these kinds of resources, that it's just as likely for women to do that as men. Like, it truly does not matter if, the woman is the one that is more likely to tap in and do that receiving into themselves, or the man. It truly does not matter who is playing that role. Not everybody is meant to be the magnet for money, but what is a magnet for money? It's a super receiver. And if you're tapped into the divine, if you're tapped into the infinite, if you're tapped into source energy, that is limitless. That's limitless. And so to bring that energy through you is bound to come with money. Period. It's bound to come with love. It's bound to come with attention. It's bound to come with your beingness being elevated. Like, the more you bring through your experience, the more you have to give, truly. And so I love the quote of, like, Mother Teresa, someone who did even renounce her own earthly possessions, said, to change the world, you need a checkbook. Period. Like, it takes money to support people. It takes money to buy food. It takes money to provide clothing and shelter, and to provide for those people in our community who cannot provide for themselves. It takes money and resources. And so for me personally, I have my Jupiter in Taurus in my first house. So providing for the needs of the tribe and having enough resources so that everybody in the tribe has what they need. And me personally, I don't go around thinking about, like, okay, well, the cat owes me $400 for Meow Mix this year, and, like, this cat owes me $600 for litter boxes. Like, no, like, I choose to support these creatures. I choose to have them in my field. And so providing for them is my joy. Like, I get just as much from them in their energy and their peace as I provide for them. So there's a reciprocity happening in the give and take. And so for me, it truly does become a matter of, when I have a greater capacity, when I have more resources flowing through me, that means that that's that much more support that I have to give to those members of my community. That's that much more in creative inspiration that I have to give free sessions and come up with free things and come up with more free content for YouTube, and to flow this energy into places and spaces where literally anybody can access it. Anybody in the world can plug into this. It's open, it's free for all. And so truly, having an abundance of resources available to me, it only allows me to put off a greater signal, to put off a greater Wi-Fi network for other people to be able to plug into this and be able to remember more of who they are, to be able to crank the volume knob up on their own authentic voice, right? Anytime I say something that you agree with, most of the time, I would say 99.9% of the time, you're remembering something that you already know that. So, like, you're just being reminded of this is also true, right? Like, if you want to believe that the world's an ugly place and having money makes you greedy, you can believe that and the world will show it to you. Or you can believe that money is simply a neutral resource and it allows for anything, right? Like, money is a reflection of, same as the internet. Like, you can get on the internet and do gross things, or you can get on the internet and spread love. It's up to the operator, right? So, like, money is no different, and believing that money will turn you evil is worth unpacking in yourself. If you have any bit of that, that was definitely like the very first piece that came up that, like, I would say at this point, I have all but dissolved that block altogether. I no longer believe that money turns you evil. I think money is a mirror, money is an amplifier, and if you're already having some kind of lack inside of you, more money is only going to amplify that lack, and human beings are desperate typically to fill the lack that they feel inside of you and inside of themselves, and that we do desperate things to close those inner gaps. And so the inner gap, it's not about money to begin with, and having money doesn't close it. So any kind of deficiency of love and connection and worthiness that we feel inside of ourselves, money only makes that bigger. And so again, truly, it is beautiful to think about like the most purest souls, the greatest channels of love in this world, having big fat checkbooks and like what is possible, the spaces and the opportunities that would be floating in the atmosphere, that would be bankrolled by loving hearts, that would be like free apple trees lining every street. Have whatever you want, like it takes money. Takes money to put those opportunities, those resources there for anybody who wants to be able to come by and pluck it off. And so for the amplifiers, the grounding that light into the planet, like the ones flowing these loving frequencies, these liberating frequencies into the world, I wish for every single one of them to dissolve every block to money that they currently have, because the only thing that keeps us apart from money is our own internal limiting beliefs, right? Like it's in the air. It's literally like Wi-Fi. It's literally like the radio playing the music. Like it's in the air. It's already here. And so there's only, are you letting it in or not? And that is my hypothesis at this point. That's like as far as I've gotten in this experiment. But already I can tell you that even just the little bit of unraveling that I have done, like in unraveling my belief around money turns you evil, I no longer believe that. I no longer have that in my body. I'm no longer scared of money, scared of it influencing me in this negative way. It won't. It'll make me more of who I am. And it's not a matter of being scared of money turning me evil. It's being scared that you already are. It's being really worried about like what's really in there. And at this point, dissolving that block was really a matter of trusting my own self-honesty. That like, no, I've looked in there and there's like a 5-year-old who loves everyone and wants everyone to have the best possible time. Give her a big fat checkbook? Yes, please. Dude, she puts on parties, she gives gifts, she gives love, she pulls other people up. Like I love the possibilities of basically giving your inner child a big fat checkbook. There's no saying that your inner parent has to be the one to keep track of the checkbook. Like the only reason that would ever happen is if you're in some kind of lack and you believe that like, well, I can't overspend. It's like, again, it's just a matter of expanding your capacity. It's just a matter of like getting on a higher Wi-Fi plan, like getting a bigger signal. And so if you want to play at a bigger level, you got to let more energy come into your space. And that is exactly where I am personally, is taking a personal responsibility for solving money blocks. And me, myself, and I am my first guinea pig as far as like, can I open the floodgates of money into my own experience? And so far, while, it's been like a week of me doing this consciously, of me being like, that's it, money, you're going down, like, and that evolving into, wait, no, money, be my friend, and money blocks, self-limiting beliefs, programs from the field of other people who couldn't make it work, telling me that it's impossible. You are going down. You are being lovingly released as not mine. And I am opening up and expanding into a wider capacity to receive, because I trust who I am as a person to, I am the kind of person that when I bubble over, I give, and like, if you're like that, type a heart in the comments below. Like, if you are already like that, money's not going to change that. Money's going to make you more. Money's going to make you bubble over even more. Let it in. Let it in. It's good for the global community. It's good for the good of the tribe, the good of the all, the good of the ones who can contribute and can offer something more to the community, and those who are in a season of life where they need to receive exclusively. Letting it in more for you personally is good for the all. It's good for the all. It'll make you more of who you are. And if you're scared of becoming more of who you are, that's where, again, the money iceberg, it's a mirror. Take it deeper and deeper and deeper into making more and more and more money, and really all you're doing is becoming more and more and more of who you really are. It's an amplifier. And if you're scared to have your signal amplified, that's worth unpacking, okay? And if that's where you're at, again, even if that's like not where you're at full time, but every once in a while you definitely know what that story's about, like, and you want to marinate in knowing the fullness of what's possible when you live from the center of your divine design, please stick around to the end of the video, because I do have an offer for you that I've mentioned a couple times, and I cannot wait for you to hear about it. There's also a link in the description if you want to just skip to the registration process. But for now, we will move on to chapter 5, self-belief. And really, the problem with this one is chronically underestimating yourself, chronically underestimating what it is that you have inside of you right here, right now, today. It's like self-belief is kind of the opposite side of the coin of not enough. I'm not enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not educated enough. I'm not certified enough. I'm not skinny enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not young enough. I'm not fill in the blank. Like, and again, this is lighting up the thread of common humanity. Like, we are all exactly right there with our not enough beliefs. That's part of one of the oldies, the classics of the social programming that we got when we got here, is the Not Enough song. We learned it earlier than we learned the ABCs typically, and it runs like a tape over and over and over in our mind. And the opposite, right? Like when we dissolve not enough, what is there? What's left? Self-belief. Self-belief, having a healthy respect and appreciation for the impact that you personally have in this world. You make a difference. By existing, by your ripple effects existing, you make a difference. You give other people energy that they wouldn't have had without your presence. You lift the tide under their ship simply by being in their field. Stop underestimating that. Stop underestimating the value of that. What is a coach? It's a person who gets paid to raise the tide under your ship, right? To like lift you up to where they can see, and then you get to see through their eyes. Like, giving other people energy, like, that's all coaching is. Okay? And so anybody who has already even a little bit of the awareness that like people feel better when they're around me, you know, like, that is gold. That is gold, that you could be believing in yourself and figuring out a way to share that into the community, to be that for the community, and make money to exist, right? Get paid to exist, get paid to be who you are, get paid to deliver the value that is inherently your beingness. People feel better when they're around me. You know, when you spend an hour with me, you're going to walk away feeling better. I know that. I know that that's real. And so to stop underestimating it, to stop believing that like that's not enough. I also have to have the perfect words. I also have to have the perfect follow-up plan. I have to blah, 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 because I can't, make videos, so I can't do that yet. Like, we tie all these random things together as stories about like, well, I'm an Aquarius, so I can't do that. Like, oh my gosh, like so many ways that we create our own blocks. It's like a choose your own adventure game as far as like how you want to hold yourself back. And all of it is believing you're not enough, believing that you can't do it, that you can't have it, that it's not for you. Like, who are you to want this thing? And believing in ourselves is one of those pieces of even receiving that is like closing the loop on receiving from yourself, your own belief in yourself, your own trust in yourself, finding a place in your center that is the eye of the storm where no matter what, you know you can come back to here. And that is where, the hummingbird archetype is so beautiful to drop in here, as far as like the hummingbird is just teeny tiny and yet so strong, so resilient, because the hummingbird knows where to find its nectar, how to sniff out where can I find nutrients for me, where can I receive nourishment, right? Like which flower has nourishment for me? Which park has flowers that I can find nourishment? Let me go there on purpose because I know what's waiting for me. And so being willing to receive and being willing to even carve out time for yourself, being willing to know on purpose where to go to find your nectar, and then give that to yourself on a regular basis because you believe that that's important, right? Like nourishing yourself, that is so much of people who are successful, who do what things in the world. It's like all they did was not give up. All they did was not talk themselves out of it, right? They believed in themselves. And that's where, like, dude, there are people out there in the world doing things imperfectly, making all kinds of mistakes, doing all kinds of harm and damage even to other people. And yet they are actively working. They're actively getting paid for exactly the same thing that you could be doing. But you don't believe that your version is good when in fact it's probably way better. All you have is a little bit of self-doubt though. And they don't have that self-doubt. They have self-belief. And so now they're out there getting paid to be imperfect. And you could be too, right? Like we could believe that what we have to give is more helpful than it is harmful. And that right there, again, if you can get even to that place, you have gold, right? Gold in properly understanding the impact that you make. Giving yourself credit for the assets of who you are by nature, right? Like just the divine electricity flowing through your human is worth a lot. It's worth a lot, but only if you believe it is. And that's what's changing with Pluto and Aquarius, is that more and more people are believing in the light they shine, believing that that's worth something. It's actually worth a lot. It's actually the key to fulfillment. I forget where I heard this, but like that happiness is just purpose. Happiness is just living through the center of your purpose and sharing, like we were given gifts to be able to give them away, sharing your gifts with the world, watching yourself make a positive impact. That is happiness. And the only thing you need to get there is self-belief, right? Dissolve self-doubt, transform your self-doubt, transform the stories, the limiting beliefs, the programs that got dropped on you when you were wet cement, that you're ready to let go of those. You're ready to rewrite it into something that is a more accurate, more resonant reflection with your authentic self, who you came here to be. It's time. It's time. Which brings us to chapter 6, leadership. Okay, and this is another word like money that I feel like, right off the bat, let's do some affirmations. Say out loud, I am a leader. And what does that bring up in you? And I would say, again, probably it looks a lot like the wealth in the world. How I said, there's 8% of the world's wealth that's controlled by women. And I would imagine that if you looked at all the people who feel confident in knowing that they are a leader in this world, probably you got about 90% men and about 10% women again, right? So don't tell me money's a superficial thing. Believing in ourselves, believing that we have something of critical importance to say and to add to the world, believing that we are a leader, that we have something to contribute, that we are worth listening to, we are worth hearing, we are worth seeing. I am a leader. I have something to contribute. And
I was listening to Kathy Heller a lot recently. I'm like consciously brainwashing myself into someone who has a solid lock on an abundance mindset, listening. Because the truth of the matter is, like, social programming never stops. It's really just a matter of harnessing it for the good that you can use it for. And so the thing is like, once you know that, it's like whoever you're letting yourself listen to, whoever you're exposing yourself to, whoever you're letting yourself be influenced by, you're being brainwashed. And typically, like, when we listen to a lot of different things, then you're getting a little bit of this, and like you're diversifying your authenticity. And sometimes when we find someone who has a mindset, a perspective that we want to download, if you will listen to them talk on repeat for hours a day, for days on end, for weeks or months on end, or years on end. This is what I did with Abraham Hicks. When I first discovered Abraham, it was like 2.5 years of hours every day listening to Abraham. And now I'm going through a Kathy Heller phase of like, soak it up, right? And a big piece of what she talks about is claiming this leadership that is existing inside of each and every single one of us. That leadership is really just accountability. Someone that says, like, I'll figure it out. I'll get to the bottom of it. I'll work on it until I figure it out, you know? And like, that's why I do consider myself a leader in this authenticity space, because not that I am the most authentic person in the entire world, but like, I am committed to figuring it out. I'm committed to unraveling every single block that I have until I am the most pure Wi-Fi signal of my authentic self, my divine electricity flowing through me with as little static as possible. I'm committed and I'm accountable to figuring that out. And I show up in this space of owning authenticity to continue to broadcast that signal. And the signal itself, if you watch back through the 600 videos, 2.5 years worth, the signal itself is continuously purifying as I go, purifying my own energy. And so to claim that you are a leader is to say, I'll be accountable. I'll be responsible for working on this little piece. You know, I'm not solving world hunger. I am not teaching people how to be creative. I'm not doing anything other than figuring out how to be authentic, how to get the things out of the way that get in the way of being authentic, of, you know, the fears that stop us, and how we build ladders to get over those fears to get to the authentic self. I feel like that is my mission. Authenticity, it is my mission. And it's largely based out of understanding what has held me back, what has caused so much trouble for me in my path, is me being a reflection of other people. Me living life on other people's terms, me following the lead and following the example of other people instead of listening inside of myself. And I've run myself off a cliff multiple times following the lead of other people, listening to the drumbeat of other people, and then I have to live with the consequences of that. And so at this point, I am committed to being in my authenticity and setting up shop like the lighthouse in this particular place where I am figuring this out. And so another piece of what Kathy Heller talks about that I really, really love is how she says, like, being a leader is not about look at me, it's about come with me, right? And so to be a leader, it would be worthwhile, just like we talked about with money, experiencing your relationship with leaders, with leadership, with, you know, father figures or authority figures or mentors or guides or teachers. I mean, all of these are kind of in that ballpark of the other potential leaders that we might have had experiences with in our lifetime that would have shaped how we feel about leadership itself. Just like money, it's completely neutral. It's a hammer, and what are you going to do with it? Are you going to use it to hurt people, or are you going to use it to build houses that shelter the homeless? You know, like, what are you going to do with it? That's the only question. Not, is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? It's a thing. It's neutral. And it's largely going to be good or bad based on the hands that are holding it. And so again, the dial, the tuning fork of what exactly is going on in your life and how are resources amplifying that, it's all what's happening inside of you. And so thinking about leaders that you've worked with in the past, like one example comes to mind. This is really like me doing my own talk therapy here, right in front of you. But I had a boss at one point at a software company where this only happened one time. And it's actually one of the things I'm most proud of myself, but it definitely influences how I see leaders, is that I don't know why she did this. I could speculate. I didn't ask her. I didn't ask her reasons. But what she did was took my work and took it out of the email where I had sent her my work, and she took it and was like, here is this, and turned it into her boss, and like, I put this together, and like, not my team put this together. Like, even if she had acknowledged that, like, you know, there's somebody else who contributed. No, she took every mark of me off of the correspondence and then said, I did. And the only reason I knew that is because the boss wanted something changed in what she did, and thinking she was being helpful, she forwards it to me and she's like, hey, so such and so put this together, and I was wondering if you could take it and do it like this. And I'm like, oh, really? So and so put that together, did they? And so I responded, my supervisor on the email, and was like, actually, I put that together and I do still have it saved. So yes, I'd be happy to add that. I mean, maybe it was petty and small of me to like make sure that she knew that I did it, but it really wasn't about that. It was about, how dare you? How dare you, like, take what I did and take credit for it? How dare you? What the fuck were you thinking? Like, why would you do that? That's so easy to get caught in and like to lose credibility over. And like, why are you doing that? And like, my speculation as far as the reasons of why somebody would do that is that they feel backed into a corner. They feel scarce. They feel lack. They feel like, in that particular situation, she hadn't turned in any work in a while. And like, I need to show my boss that I'm doing something, and here's some work, and why don't I just say I did this? Like, that's my best guess at what she was thinking with why you would take credit for somebody else's work. But that's what I'm talking about with, like, the world is full of people who are using their hammer not in a very conscientious way. And so if you would do the job better, I would encourage you to raise your hand and volunteer to do that job, to step up and be like, I'll be the leader. I'll be the one out in front, figuring it out, being accountable and responsible to figuring it out, so that, right, like, every piece of the path that I figure out of like how to be authentic, and I make another video, I make another video, I make another video, I make another ebook, I make another ebook, like, I keep figuring it out, and I keep planting light along the path of like, look here, here's some cheat codes. If that's where you are, here's a little bit of light to light up that area. And then I keep going into the darkness and I light up that area and I leave some light. I leave a video, I leave a book, I leave a something, right? And so it truly is not look at me, not look at how great I am, but it's come with me. Right? I figured this out, and you could have the same openness. You could have the same access to life force energy flowing through you. And ultimately, that's what I want, right? Like, I am a person who chronically is like healing my codependency, and truly, like, I want your happiness and thriving more than I even want my own. But I have talked myself into believing that I only get your thriving if I can thrive first. So that's what I do. I get out in front. I lead into the darkness. I lean into my own darkness. I bring my own light. I shine my light back on myself to unravel the blocks that are in my way from being my most authentic self, in hopes that the light that's planted along the path keeps you from stumbling or helps you to see things a little bit more clearly, so that maybe they're a little less scary. Maybe life is a little bit more open. The path is more open. You can move just a hair faster because it's a little bit better illuminated. Like, I don't even know what people get out of this content, but I know that for me, happiness is purpose. Right? Like, living my purpose of giving my gifts into the world. Like, it makes me happy to sit here in a room by myself at 10 o'clock in the morning, talking to my computer. And eventually this video is going to see the light of day and is going to live on the internet for as long as the internet exists. And that is exciting to think about the come with me, the people who find what you left behind and are able to access a better life for themselves. They're able to build a better life for themselves based on what you figured out, what you were able to put into the world so that they had access to it. The knowledge, the opportunities, the wisdom, the cheat codes. Put it out there. Put it out there. And lead into your own authentic terrain, right? Like doing my activation sessions with people, I've gotten to meet people who are doing like inner child work, or they're, working in addiction and like their own recovery space, or like, literally every single person is taking their own authentic path, leaning into their own darkness, lighting up a path, and then other people are able to like walk along behind them on something that is now a lit up, paved. There's structure there, right? To help and support and be an asset to their process. So claiming yourself as a leader is a huge piece of allowing yourself to believe that what you have to offer is absolutely valuable and needs to be heard, deserves to be heard. The world would be a better place the more you were heard. Believe that in the core of your being and show up enthusiastically to make your work, no matter if there's one person looking at it or 1 million people looking at it, okay? It's important and it's valuable and it matters. It matters that you do it, mostly for yourself, right? But like other people thrive in the wake of your thriving. That's all being a leader is somebody who's holding to that vision of what's possible. All right, chapter 7 is self-value. So again, when we are grounding this into the rise of individual empowerment, what is blocking us from doing that? And having a distorted, corrupted program running for your self-value is one huge way that we cut ourselves off. And what do I mean by self-value? It's like thinking that you're worthless, that you have no or very little worth to society, to your community, to even just the person sitting next to you, like that you don't have much to offer, like that would be a corrupted idea of self-worth or self-value, because we are all here, which means we are all needed. We're all meant to be here. So to think that you have nothing to contribute is maybe the biggest illusion of all. The biggest, like there comes a point in your healing journey, give me a heart in the comments if you've had at least one of these, where it's like, dang it, I'm so glad that I had that issue because solving it ended up being really, really fun. Okay? Like, how many times have you had that happen where you actually end up being grateful for the overall experience, even though it might have started really bad, nasty, ugly, toxic, whatever, but like actually transforming that and alchemizing it inside of yourself? Like, again, like, I don't think there's anything that we humans want more than to feel our own aliveness, our own expansiveness, our own sense of we are the extension of source energy. We are an extension of the divine. We have a unique blueprint of what the divine intended to be with us, within the unique combination of what we each are. And so we are each here because our part, our contribution, our unique design is what's needed. Right? And like not you over anybody else, but like everyone, we are all in this together. Everyone has something valuable inside of them that is needed within the world. And so to sit there and think that I don't have anything valuable to contribute, or like I'm not enough yet, right? Like when we think about what is it that we want, and then what is in the way of you living whatever it is that you want, so much of it gets tied up in this right here, as far as like, what do you think you are worth? And that's another way of saying, who do you think you are? You know, like, who is it that you think you are? Who do you pretend to be on a daily basis? And who are you really? Because who you are really is an extension of source energy, right? Like, your true nature is limitless. Your true nature is to be infinitely connected to the divine and to intelligence and compassion and love, and to be flowing in the aliveness of that. That is the equipment that we have, and yet so few people on the planet truly feel that way. And so what I want for me personally, and this is why I say, like, aren't you glad you had that problem? I want people to have moment after moment after moment after moment of tapping into their true nature to discover that they are actually already so much more worthy and valuable, and inherently so. Like, just by existing, the way you exist holds your value. Like, you don't have to do anything else to earn it. You don't have to do anything other than claim that it's true. Claim that it's true. And we are each the creator of our own individual universe, our own individual reality. And so basically what that means is that whatever story you're telling, whatever vibe you're vibing inside of yourself, practicing it on a regular basis, that's what's reflected to you in the world around you. And so if you want something different, tune the knob inside of yourself. And one such way that we would do that is to look at our own concept of self-value. What do you think you're worth? You know, like, if here's a really beautiful exercise, and there's no wrong answer. The information that comes from this is going to be really valuable as you feel your way into this iceberg of your own relationship with your self-value. Draw a box on a journal page, a piece of paper, whatever, and fill it out like it's a check. Like, there's the little amount box, there's the pay to line, there's the line where you got to spell it all the way out. Somebody's got to sign that sucker, like the Bank of the Universe, and write your name on pay to, and you can sign it from the universe, from your vortex, your, never-ending trust fund of money that is already right now available to you. And write an amount that you would feel lit up and alive, and even just like a tiny bit mind blown. Like, what amount are you writing on that check? What amount are you going to say, like, yeah, I could receive that. I could see that. I could see having $100,000 dumped on me. I could see having $10,000 dumped on me. Yeah, I could see that. Like, what is the amount that you can see? And sit with that for a second, as far as like what feels like the amount you would want to write. If you want to share it in the comments, I would love to hear. And the goal of this exercise, the point of like this information and what it's showing you, is where your sense of self-value is, and the relationship between ego and soul, meaning our soul, our extension of source energy, our divinity that we just are, that like the electricity that animates our body, that makes our heart beat, that keeps our being going for the time that we get to be alive. That soul, that connection back to source, back to the infinite, the universe, the eternal expanding universe, that's what we are, that's what we are inherently made of. Again, it's limitless. So when you're in your soul, there's a limitless feeling of true abundance. Truly has nothing to do with money. It has nothing to do with a check being written to you. It has everything to do with knowing your true nature, aka knowing that you are limitless, feeling the expansiveness of that, feeling the freedom of that. That is truly what I wish for people. And, one way to get there is to unravel your blocks to self-value, because again, that soul, that limitless version of you, it's in there all the time. And it's like, how often do you plug into it? And the thing about it is like, how often you plug into it is, again, another mirror to help you see, just like the check is to help you see how limited do you have yourself right now? Because every single limitation is coming from ego. Every bit of self-doubt is born in the ego. Every bit of imposter syndrome, of like beating yourself up, like, who am I to be the one to blah 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 blah, like get back in your place, like that's the ego. And the ego's job, before we get off on a rant about like how dare you, Mr. Ego, it's like the ego's job is to keep you safe. The ego's job is to ground you into this human vessel that you are riding around in for the time that you're present on this physical earth. And that's okay. That's okay. The ego, while it does want to keep you safe, it's also a lot of where your unique joy is actually born. Like your unique ideas about what you personally want to do. Like that's a dance between your soul and your ego. And it's like the ego has their hands on the steering wheel and the soul is the gas in the gas tank. And so if you're plugging in to your ego all the time, 100% of the time, chances are you're sitting in a car on the side of the road that's not going anywhere, right? Like, and at that point, the steering wheel doesn't even matter because there's no gas in the gas tank, all right? So like, how often, how much are we plugging into the limitless version of our soul? And again, if that's really speaking to you, like you're like, dude, I'm ready, just how do I do that? The offer that's coming at the end of the video, the link is in the description box. Like, please join me in that space. And even if the time has passed, like if you're finding this video later on, you can still click that link and it'll take you to the process to like get those replays of like what that was. If you're wanting to tune in, there are so many spaces that are built and ready for you right here, right now, to like hold you in your becoming, hold you in like reaching up and out of the limits that your ego currently has on you in terms of what your ego's opinion is of what you're worth. There is a whole nother place inside of you that knows for a fact, knows with ultimate relaxation and luxury that like, dude, like you are worth infinity. So like there's truly no amount of money that can match the value of your soul. And truly, like every time you plug in, it's a little more gas in the gas tank. And at that point, like receiving that energy or having access to that fuel, and then, right, like a dance between the fuel in the gas tank and the hands on the steering wheel that are deciding like what would be most fun for you. Like another place to check in on your self-value is how often are you treating yourself to fun things? How often do you ask yourself, you know what, Carly, right here, right now, in this moment, Carly, what sounds like the most fun thing that you can think to do? That's what we're going to do today. How often do you guide yourself by your own sense of fun, your own sense of what is just the most radically delightful thing you can imagine in this moment? And I'm really asking you, like, what is it? And how often are you asking yourself this question? How often are you giving yourself that exact experience? Because that right there is the dance between there's gas in the gas tank, right? There's gas in the gas tank. We have the knowledge and the awareness and the limitlessness of our soul is flowing in this creative way of we get to decide exactly what our life is. And then we check in with our ego, our little self, our, right here, right now, what would be the most fun? What would light you up on the biggest number of levels? And that is a question for all of you, ego included, right? So like there's no part of you that has to get excluded. Like really, truly what we want is to make space for all of it and to be aware that being in our ego, which is to say like what would light you up right here, right now, like what would serve you most in this moment? Imagine if you always only asked yourself that question. That's the version of like, at that point, you are sitting in a car on the side of the road, like focusing exclusively on your ego and what would serve you personally is not going to get you gas in the gas tank, right? Like we got to tap into the soul. And what's in the soul? Our connection to the infinite. And who else is connected to the infinite? Everyone. 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 And at that point, right, like you are a masterpiece because you are a piece of the master. You are someone because you are some of the one. You matter. Way more than you usually give yourself credit for. And I feel really comfortable saying that because no matter where we are in this human experience, we are living with our ego, which is to say we are living with self-limiting ideas. And so no matter how much of your soul you've unlocked, there's more. There's more. You can feel even better. You can feel even more unlimited. You can feel even more alive, even more on fire with the value that you are able to contribute. You know, like it's not about, well, but who's gonna buy my book? Like, it's like, get, what do you have? You know, show us what you have. And then the people will self-select. The people will show up being like, I've been looking for exactly that. Or like, I've always wanted where you combine this with this. And I've seen people doing this one and I've seen people doing this one. I've never seen anybody combining this and this. Your unique offering, your unique divine blueprint has value inherently with it that is needed in the global community. And your joy is to give it away. And so much of it, though, is together with your own personal ego, your own personal sense of fun, delighting yourself, helping yourself to feel as good as you can possibly feel. What is that? You know, make a list of 20 places, 20 things that you do, places you go, people you talk to, things you listen to, things you read, things you look at, things you study. Like, what are the places that you go to feel as good as you possibly can? And again, how often are you giving yourself that? Because the only choice that ever gets made is, what are we choosing to focus on? You know, like, what are you focused on right now? And a lot of people, especially the ones that don't feel very good, they're coming from a very egoic place of like, what would help my ego feel the best in this moment? And not always tapping into the true, unlimited, expansive electricity that is flowing through you for the good of the all, right? Like, we are all in this together. So like, what is that contribution? What is your purpose? You know, like, what value do you add? And you have some. You absolutely have some. So this entire chapter is a mirror for what is your relationship to your self-value. You know, that is such an important piece to unravel. Like, where does your value come from? What is the root of what, you know, the value plant that is within each one of us? Is it sick? Is it putting off fruit? Is it, you know, like, what is the roots going down into? Like, what is the soil holding it? Like this analogy, in the roots, it's like our own perception of ourself, the story that we tell, right? Like the water or the liquid that we dump on those roots, it's like those are the thoughts that we regularly expose ourselves to. And so again, like, the only choice that ever gets made is, what are you choosing to focus on? How much are you focusing on the limitations that are present in your life? And how much are you focusing on the unlimited, potential, expansive, anything is possible? Anything that you can imagine. One, it already exists because time isn't real. And two, it's obviously possible because it already exists. So how much time do you spend focusing in either one of those? And again, if you are ready for even just one more little bit of elevation in your perspective on your world, I cannot recommend enough the offer that's coming at the end of the video. Chapter 8, final chapter on this video, this mammoth of a video that I have had the most fun making and really, truly receiving. And that is the name of the 8th chapter, receiving, this block to receiving, this being stuck in giving, right? Like, and I know that there's a bit of mixed messages here because on one hand, we're all in this together and give your contribution and serve your purpose, add your value, give your value, whatever. And at the same time, you know, we don't always exhale. Right? Like, the tide doesn't go out and out and out and out and out. No, it goes out and then it comes back in. and then it goes out, and then it comes back in. And so there's a balance and a harmony in the give and the receiving. And so being blocked in receiving, like, even just think about this, okay? Like, picture that you're out in public somewhere and this random stranger, you've never seen them before, probably will never see them again, walks up to you and is like, your hair is gorgeous. You are having the best hair day. Or like, that shirt, oh my gosh, I've never even seen something like that. That is the coolest shirt I've ever seen. How do you feel? How do you feel being under that spotlight of, I love you. I love that. I love that right there. And they're shining it directly at you. What does it feel like? What does it feel like to receive a compliment? What does that feel like to you? Because a lot of people would be like, oh no, like your hair's, and I do this all the time too, where like when people give me a compliment, I jump right to, well, clearly you have this same thing going on because you can see it in me. And so instantly I'm reflecting, instantly I'm like giving it right back to them. I'm not receiving it. And that is one of the examples that, like, as I've been watching this Kathy Heller content, I see her when people give her compliments, she says, I receive that. I receive that. You know, and what it feels like she's saying is, I believe that. I believe that. I believe that my hair is fire today because I freaking saw it, you know? Like, I believe that you love this shirt because I love this shirt too. Like, I receive that. I believe that, you know? Like, that reception. And then almost always she comes back with like, you know, and how sweet of you, like how clear of an insight that you must have this. I mean, she always like goes right back to like where I try to skip to, but like watching her just take a moment and be like, I receive that. You know, this is one of those places where I feel like I've gotten really tripped up personally in the you know, where is your worth coming from kind of contemplation, as far as like when someone gives me a compliment, when I, you know, put something out there and somebody buys it. Like, that's one of the biggest compliments I've ever gotten, you know, like to have somebody be like, yeah, that's definitely valuable. So valuable that I would give you this money because I would rather have this thing. You're telling me I could have this thing and all I got to do is give you this $800? Like, fuck, here's my $800. Give me that thing. I want this. Like, you know, like, oh, it's an awesome feeling. It's an awesome feeling to like have some of that energy, that reciprocity coming into my system. And it reminds me of the phrase of new levels, new devils, because the more you receive, the more you get pushed back up into every single one of the icebergs that we've covered in this video, new levels, new devils. Like I said in the introduction, this video is designed to work with you and take you even deeper as you yourself meet yourself at deeper and deeper places in your being, deeper and deeper places in your soul. You open up into even more expanded reality, more expanded consciousness. You come back and listen to the video again, and it opens again. And then you listen again, and it opens again. So this is a reality expanding bubble of energy that will give to you as many times as you will receive from it. And the thing is that there are bubbles like this all over the world that are totally free, totally ready. They're there, they exist. They're like literally already around you. The only thing is that you believe that you can have it, right? Like this video right here for free. Hours worth of this kind of holding space around this contemplation that is general enough and built from infinite intelligence enough that anybody can plug into this and can fill it with themselves and can work with themselves in new ways for free. Like, this exists. This has existed. You know, even before I uploaded it, I've been building this space for days, and I've built hundreds of other ones, you know, and millions of other people have put stuff on YouTube, right? Like They're not all bubbles that help you to feel better. But the only decision that ever gets made is, what are you choosing to focus on? If it doesn't help you feel better, then I would stop listening to it. Easy peasy. I don't receive that. I don't receive that. I don't have to finish it. I don't have to even let you finish your sentence. I don't receive that, and walk away. We are in charge of our reception. We are in charge of what it is that we are choosing to receive. And so much of that is, the knob on the radio inside of us and tuning our frequency. But really, what is that? How do you receive something different? You choose to program yourself in a different way. You choose to tell a different story. You choose to expose yourself to different influences. You stop telling the story inside of yourself. I sat with a person here recently in a one-on-one where we sat together for almost 2 hours, and I asked several questions about them and what they want in their life, and what is it that you want and what's going on that feels like it's holding you back from that. And it was fascinating because they told several stories about what had happened over the course of their life. We went back to several different places, and they started I'm going to say 4, 5, 6 stories with the word, well, unfortunately, and then they told me what happened. And then unfortunately, and then told me a different story. And then unfortunately, and told me a different story. So even just the act of bringing yourself up and out of yourself, which is to say to receive yourself, is so huge, because you start to see what is really going on in there. Right? When we tune into ourselves, this new levels, new devils, when you start looking more deeply inside of yourself than you've ever looked before, you're bound to find things that was so painful that I rejected it all the way down there. And that means that you're not going to see it again until you swim all the way down there. But the deeper you swim, the more painful it is. And that definitely makes sense. But pain is temporary. Pain is a splinter in your finger that can be taken out, right? And so that's really what I do with people one-on-one is what are the splinters that are in your way? What are the blocks that are in your way? What are the self-limiting ideas that are in your way? And that one right there, the starting all the stories with, unfortunately, the self-limiting idea is that life was supposed to be different for me and it wasn't. That is cancer in a human. Is that you spend all your time thinking about how life should be different for you rather than being where you are and taking from it, what did you get? What are the gifts that you were given? And sometimes gifts are wrapped in pain. And so we don't necessarily recognize them as gifts, but that's another piece of what I do with people is unwrap their gifts, right? And sometimes the wrapping paper is hard to look at. And that's, again, what I help to do as far as let's look at it in a detached way where this is information for us to work with, because that's just the opening layer. When we really get past that, there's so much yummy stuff in there. And so just a little bit of support and courage and relief in the soothing of whatever it is that we're going to find when we do look deeper into yourself than you're used to looking. You're bound to find the pieces of yourself that you haven't integrated yet. So new levels, new devils, it's it's really not the devil, it's really just unintegrated shadow. Unhealed pain that you haven't processed yet. And having supportive spaces for you to be able to do that, this video is one space where dude, it's totally free. It's here on your time. There are all kinds of these kinds of resources out there for you that all you really have to do is set the intention that I want to receive influences that help me feel what do you want to feel? You get to fill that in for yourself as the creator of your world. What is it that you really want to feel? Do you want to feel your own divinity running through you? Do you want to feel expansive and limitless? Do you want to feel true abundance? What do you want to feel? And set the intention, bring me influences that make me feel like that. And then you choose to spend your time exposing yourself to influences that make you feel like that. And if they don't make you feel like that, then unsubscribe, unfollow. I don't receive that. That's not how I want to feel. I don't receive that. And then what are you receiving, right? We can go through so much to push away what it is that we don't want and then not plug into our soul, not plug into rights, but what do you want, right? The most powerful transformations are coming when we are focused on what it is that we are building, what it is that we want to receive, and to find little clues, little pieces of evidence that like I am receiving it, right? Hopefully this video is one such piece of evidence that says like you can feel as good as you are willing to let yourself feel. And so much of that is being willing to give up the addiction to the block, the comfort zone of being blocked off like that. You know, the comfort zone of feeling like, well, I'm just a piece of shit, and so that's why my life sucks. No, your life isn't what you want it to be because you haven't built it yet, right? And the process of building it is swimming deeper and deeper and deeper into your own soul and unraveling the blocks, the nets, the things that are keeping you stuck from going even further into yourself. Like that is the process. And so that brings me finally to the offer that I have from my heart to your heart. I am so freaking excited about what is possible through this free 5-day retreat that I will be hosting March 16th through the 20th, 2024. That is a Saturday that it starts on March 16th and goes through Wednesday, March 20th. And it's happening at 10 a.m. Central Time, 5 days in a row. You'll be with me for 1 hour. And that retreat, that concentrated amount of time of tuning in every day, plugging in every day for 5 days in the supportive, guided experience of those 5 sessions, I've sat through 2 of these kinds of Zoom online free retreats, and in each of them I had life-changing shifts that opened up new levels, new devils, big time. But like, what else do you want? You know, like what else do you want other than to be even more of who you were born to be? And that is what this experience offers. This free retreat offers March 16th through the 20th. The link to register is in the description box. As soon as you register, you're going to get back the info to join the link, join the Zoom once we get to those days. And if you're finding this video after the fact, I'm going to try to remember to update the verbiage on the link, but you can click that same link and go register and receive the replays. So all of that is free and accessible as a space to help you tune in to who you really are, the expansiveness, the unlimitedness of who you really are, and to have some support on like, what do I even do? You know, like what do I do? Well, you find things that help you feel that way, and then you do them again and again and again. And it's like, it's really hard to like hold my alignment steady. It's like, right. But so, you know what else is hard? Lifting 100-pound weight. And when you do it over and over and over again, eventually those muscles build up and then it's not hard anymore. Right. And so the good gets better. And then the better gets better, and the better gets better, and it gets better forever. The bigger your muscles get, right? Like the better you are at sniffing out, like what are the things that help you feel more of your authentic frequency, and spending more time in those places. It's not a complicated recipe. And so I am here as one of those spaces with this free 5-day retreat. I would love to have you there, to join all the people who have already registered. I sent it out to 99 email addresses of like all the people that I've ever received free activation sessions for, or I've ever done one-on-ones with, or if I missed you along the way, I do apologize. I definitely piecemealed it together. I dug through my old inbox of like all the people that I've ever heard from, and I sent it out to 99 emails, and instantly there was registrations. So there are going to be people in this group, and already I can tell you from the people who have registered that the people who typically are floating around this channel are well along the way of already pretty tuned in to their authentic frequency. It's like we're not starting from square one by any means. So like, yes, this is beginner friendly, but at the same time, like when I say beginner, I'm talking to the people around this channel, and I'm talking about like myself, like I'm a beginner, right? Like this is meeting us where we are, yes, but typically the people around the channel are already tuned in and turned on to some degree. And so that's who's in the space, right? Like I've seen the registrations of who's already signed up, and I'm like, you guys, like to get to spend those hours together and get to plug in and marinate and weave together with other people who are working to elevate their vision, who are working to get up and out of their old egoic programming and to actively be rewriting it and reprogramming themselves, re-influencing themselves to remold their perspective, to elevate themselves, to be able to see even more clearly, what were you born for? You know, the divine blueprint of your unique human. You're here because you're needed. And how are you needed? It's inside of your natural self. It's inside of everything that comes naturally to you through your essence. And so that's what we're going to unlock. We're going to journal. We're going to meditate. We're going to have dance parties. Making the playlist for these sessions is like one of the funnest parts of thinking about, like, you know, what kind of vibes am I putting into these sessions? And it is just so fun to think about having you guys there with me. So March 16th through the 20th, Saturday to Wednesday, 5 days in a row. 5 days in a row of plugging in together, weaving together. And I will have offers of, like, there are some containers that I am creating on the other side of that for 12 weeks of, like, if you come through the free 5-day and you're like, I want to keep going, I want to keep plugging in, I want to keep making this shift, making these 1-degree turns in how I feel, there are going to be options on the other side of that. But the free 5-day is designed to give, I'm putting the best of the best of what I got in that 5-day because it's free and everyone can come and get it, right? It's there if you will let yourself receive it. It's there. It's a space that you can plug into, that you can soak up electricity. You can soak up fuel for your tank. Ideas like other souls that are trying to live with an open heart. Other souls that are actively working through their new levels, new devils, right? Like that we are all in this together and that we are holding that safe group space for, the other piece that I haven't mentioned yet, that those 5 days, like at the end of each one, there's going to be one hot seat. So one person's going to get to come up and like have this individual one-on-one coaching in each of the 5 days in front of the group. And like, if you've ever listened to Abraham Hicks, if you've ever followed anybody who does those kinds of hot seats where like you bring up one person, it's incredible how even just one person can encapsulate the energy of like what is going on for all of us. And so those hot seats at the end of each session, plus as if you even need a bonus on a free retreat, there's going to be giveaways every single day. I was like, what else do I have? What else can I pour into this space to make it even better? And so I'm going to be giving away some of my ebooks. I'm going to be giving away some of my printed books. I'm also going to be giving away 1 month free in the Sacred Circles. I'm going to give away 2 free one-on-ones. Like that is what is happening for the people that are attending the session live, like at the Zoom. You guys, like I am so freaking excited about this. And again, if you're finding this after March 20th, 2024, still click the link. It'll at least take you to the replays of what this free 5-day was. And most likely I will have something else on there as far as like forwarding you on to where am I now? What am I offering now? Because this kind of container, this kind of space, and especially like the free 5-day, like I can see myself offering this again and again and again and again, and having these spaces there that are equal opportunity. They are free. The only price for admission is that you show up. You have to choose to show up for yourself. You have to choose to receive for yourself. And I hope to some extent that like what's presented in the sessions and even just the container, the 5 days, it's like that's offering a healthy challenge of like you showing up for yourself. You know, like I'm offering accountability that I'm going to be there for 5 days. And if you want to be there, if you want to invest that time in yourself, then you can be there too. You know, there's only one price to admission, and that's you choosing it. That's you choosing to let yourself have it. And so will you? Will you let yourself have it? Because I would love to play with you. I would love to weave it together with all of these beautiful souls that are going to find their way into those sessions. You guys, I'm so excited. Can you tell? Can you give me a heart, a fire heart, especially in the chat, in the comments, if you're feeling my excitement about what this is going to be, what's possible for who, for how many souls coming together in these 5 days. I am so excited to give. I am so excited to tune into the unlimited extension of source energy that I am, and to be of service in whatever way my gifts can add value to whoever wants to come and receive from me in that space. It's an honor. It's literally a humbling honor to get to share my gifts with the world. And if you have received anything from this video, please like it. Please leave me a comment down below. That lets other people in the atmosphere of the algorithm, lets them know, hey guys, this is good stuff. You could receive good stuff from this video. So if that's you, if you've received good stuff, please leave me a like on the video, comment, sign up for the 5-day. I'll meet you there. I'll see you there. Until then, you take such good care of your precious, divinely intended self, and so will I.